हजुर म्याम
आयो होइन अब?
हजुर आयो
Okay, so these are your learning objectives for today's session, right? So you'll be define and classify conjunctivitis. And there's about the various types of conjunctivitis. So in briefly about acute bacterial, about viral and chronic conjunctivitis. Then you'll have to know about vernal catarrh, which is a type of allergic conjunctivitis. And lastly about ophthalmia neonatrum, which is it's a very common conjunctivitis in case of neonates, okay, in a setup. So conjunctivitis, as we all know, is the inflammation of the conjunctiva. Okay, so the main predisposing factors, as we all know, are poor hygiene, poor sanitation, and hot and dry climate. Okay, so these are some of the predisposing factors. Now, there are two basic classifications. So one is the etiological classification, and the other is the classification based on the clinical picture. So etiological, as we all know, the main two types, infective and non-infective. So infective, there's bacterial, viral, and fungal. And in case of non-infective, you have allergic, which is the vernal keratoconjunctivitis, then due to toxic, okay, due to various chemicals, sometimes even due to all these pollution, environmental factors, and all that could also be one of the causative factors. Then traumatic and keratoconjunctivitis associated with skin diseases. So for you all, mainly it's important to know about the infective type, bacterial, viral mainly, and the allergic type of conjunctivitis. Okay, so that's the etiological one there. Now coming to the clinical classification, so it's basically according to the clinical picture, and basically it talks about the discharge, okay, the type of discharge which is responsible, which is present in the various types of conjunctivitis that has it's present in the classification. So mucopurulent, purulent, serous. Okay, so all these mucopurulent, purulent, mainly in bacterial, serous is in viral, chronic again in case of viral, allergic sometimes, chronic conjunctivitis, then the ophthalmia and sometimes even membranous type of conjunctivitis, which is mainly due to the presence of the pseudomembranes, which we talked about in the last class. So now coming to the first one, which is acute bacterial conjunctivitis. So it's an acute infectious type of conjunctivitis where the duration is less than and the main symptoms, as we all know, as we've talked in the last class, so the patient will have redness, there'll be itching, there'll be foreign body sensation at times, okay, and the main thing in such cases is the presence of discharge. Okay, so when we look at the conjunctiva, there'll be hyperemia of the bulbar conjunctiva, okay, papillary hypertrophy. That means there'll be presence of papillae associated with mucopurulent discharge. So this is also known as mucopurulent conjunctivitis. And this type of conjunctivitis is mainly seen in cases of children. So clinical picture, same thing as we've discussed. Okay, so symptoms, which is common to all types of conjunctivitis: redness, foreign body sensation, itching, lacrimation, discharge, which is the mucopurulent type, and then the lid swelling. So when you examine the patient, you will see the lid edema there, conjunctival hyperemia, some amount of conjunctival chemosis, and moderate to severe amount of mucopurulent discharge. Okay, so here, as in this picture, you can see the conjunctival congestion. So congestion all around in the diffuse type of congestion in the bulbar conjunctiva, and some amount of follicles which is seen in the lower palpebral conjunctiva here. And here you can see the severe amount of chemosis. Okay, so that is the edema of the conjunctiva, and it looks bulged out. Okay, so main is redness of the eyes, bulbar conjunctiva, there's redness, which is diffuse congestion, and then there's presence of mucopurulent discharge, lid edema, okay, some amount of lid edema which can be seen here, and then conjunctival chemosis in severe cases, okay, so where the conjunctiva, there's presence of edema and it looks bulged out, okay. So the main thing in case of acute is the type of diffuse hyperemia, and of course the mucopurulent discharge, and then presence of conjunctival chemosis. So usually is self-limiting, and the main causative organisms are Staph aureus, epidermidis, streptococci. But however, in children, you have to rule out Haemophilus and chlamydia. Okay, so swab, conjunctival swab can be sent for culture sensitivity, and then to rule out these organisms in children. Okay, so usually it's self-limiting. However, medication has to be started. So since it's a bacterial one and it's acute, we go for broad spectrum antibiotics. So usually it's given in the topical form, which is either in the drop or in the ointment form. So we go for broad spectrum antibiotics in the fluoroquinones group, ciprofloxacin or ofloxacin, which comes in the percentage of 0.3%, and that is given around 4 to 6 times per day for around 1 week. Okay, so this dosage, again, it depends upon the severity. If it's DNA conditions or there's too much of discharge, patient has a lot of discomfort. So even too early frequent application can be advised to the patient. Okay, but however, 4 to 6 hourly is the usual dose, and ointment is given at bedtime. So usually we go for ciprofloxacin ointment, which is given at bedtime. Okay, so the main purpose of giving the ointment is that at night the patient won't be able to put the topical drops, and use of application of this ointment at bedtime will prevent the eyes from gluing together. Okay, in the morning sticky eyes hundaina tyo duita आँखाहरु जोड्न पाउँदैन. Okay, so that's the main purpose. And irrigation, sometimes they can be excessive discharge, so for such patients you can even go for irrigation to remove the excessive discharge. Okay, so it's, though it's self-limiting, you have to give for topical broad spectrum antibiotics, usually in the fluoroquinol groups. Either ciprofloxacin or ofloxacin is given for 1 week, and the ointment at bedtime. Okay, so that's about the acute conjunctivitis or mucopurulent conjunctivitis. The other one is the hyperacute conjunctivitis. Okay, so another name for this hyperacute is the purulent type of conjunctivitis. Lot of pus here. Unlike the mucopurulent, where there is presence of mucus as well as pus, but in this case it is hyperacute. So there is purulent conjunctivitis is mainly because of the purulent type of discharge. Okay, lot of pus there. So there'll be a history of abrupt onset of symptoms. So usually unilateral, but sometimes bilateral as well. And main features, clinical features, so symptoms, similar type, redness, discharge, foreign body sensation, irritation, lid swelling. So there'll be lid edema, conjunctival hyperemia, and moderate to severe amount of purulent discharge, and conjunctival chemosis. Okay, so here, as you can see in this picture, there's a lot of purulent discharge. Okay, unlike the previous slide where there was mucopurulent discharge. So here, the copious amount of purulent discharge. You can see some amount of conjunctival hyperemia here in the bulbar conjunctiva. Okay, some amount of conjunctival chemosis can also be seen. And here also in this other slide is the same thing. Lot of purulent discharge, and then you can see the sticking together or the matting of the eyelids. Okay, so that is the hyperacute conjunctivitis, another name also known as purulent conjunctivitis. So this is important to this purulent conjunctivitis because it is rapidly progressive. Okay, so it has to be treated on time. And if it's not treated on time, what will happen? They can also lead to the presence of membrane, especially the pseudo membranes. And another very important feature of this purulent type, since it's rapidly progressive, what can happen is that it can involve the cornea as well. Okay, especially the periphery part of the cornea, because the conjunctiva is adjacent to the peripheral part of the cornea. So that can lead to presence of peripheral corneal infiltrates and thinning at times. Okay, and in such cases, there'll be presence of preauricular lymphadenopathy as well. Okay, so this is hyperacute. There's presence of a lot of pus in the discharge. So it's also known as the purulent type. And main thing in this is rapidly progressive. So if it's not treated on time, it can involve the cornea as well, leading to the presence of peripheral corneal infiltrates. Okay, so the cornea can be involved. So some amount of keratitis or corneal ulcer can be seen. That is the peripheral type of corneal ulcer, and even thinning of the cornea can be there at times. And presence of preauricular lymphadenopathy is also common. And main causative organism is, of course, gonococcal. Okay, so because of the purulent discharge, that is mainly seen in case of gonococcal infection, especially in neonates and young adults. Okay, so in fact, the type of neonate conjunctivitis is a type of gonococcal infection. Okay, so you have to remember it is rapidly progressive. So treatment has to be started immediately. So treatment, so as we all know, the broad spectrum antibiotic is given, so topical as and the ointment form. So usually, again, the fluoroquinolones group can be given, or fluoxetine too early in such cases if it's severe. Otherwise, 4 hourly will suffice. And ointment HS at bedtime, okay, and irrigation to remove the excessive discharge. And systemic antibiotic is given especially in case of in children. Sometimes they can even have H. influenza and meningococcal infection. So usually gonococcal infection or in other infection like H. influenza and meningococcal, systemic antibiotic has to be given. That is especially for children, okay, especially in ophthalmic neonatal, which I'll be coming to later in the slide. Okay, so treatment has to be started right away. You'll have to remember about that, because if it's not treated, then the cornea can get involved. Okay, so there can be presence of peripheral keratitis, or sometimes even thinning of the cornea. Okay, so hyperacute or purulent. Okay, so acute is mucopurulent, hyperacute is the purulent type. So especially in children, in neonates, and main infection is due to the gonococcal infection. Sometimes in children, H. influenza and meningococcal also can be present. Okay, so treatment has to be started right away in such cases. Now coming to the next topic, which is chronic conjunctivitis. So this is very common, especially in a setup. Okay, so the main definition of what constitutes an chronic conjunctivitis is that any bacterial conjunctivitis, be it purulent, mucopurulent, okay, any bacterial conjunctivitis which lasts for more than 4 weeks, that is chronic conjunctivitis. So if it lasts for more than 4 weeks, that's the chronic type of conjunctivitis, especially the bacterial ones. And the main causes are if it's continuation of untreated or partially treated acute mucopurulent conjunctivitis. Okay, so sometimes what happens is if the patient doesn't get treatment, doesn't use any antibiotic, that's not treated properly, so it keeps on coming and going. So if it lasts for more than four weeks, that's the chronic type. Or sometimes it could be partially treated. So sometimes what happens is that the patient, they use the drop just for a couple of days, 1-2 days, instead of the whole 7 days or 1 week. So because of that also, that leads to the chronic conjunctivitis. Another one is chronic infection, which is associated with chronic dacrocystitis, that is inflammation of the lacrimal sac, or chronic rhinitis. So because of that associated infections in the surrounding area. Another one, very important in a setup, is exogenous infection due to dust, smoke, retained foreign body. And another very important is the eye strain, mainly due to refractive errors, uncorrected refractive errors in children, or sometimes phorias or some amount of squint. Okay, so these are all the causative factors or the etiological agents for the causing chronic conjunctivitis. So any conjunctivitis, bacterial conjunctivitis, which lasts for more than 4 weeks is the chronic conjunctivitis. And these are some of the causes. So you have to rule out all these causes. Okay, so especially in children, uncorrected refractive errors due causing eye strain and all that can also lead to the chronic conjunctivitis. So main clinical feature of this chronic conjunctivitis is that there's burning and grittiness in the eyes, especially in the evening. So as the day progresses, more than in the morning, towards the evening, the patient will have burning and grittiness in the eyes. Typical feature, आँखा पोलेको जस्तो हुन्छ आँखामा, typical symptom like बालुवा परेको जस्तो आँखामा के परेको जस्तो बिजाको त्यस्तो हुन्छ है त. So that's very important in case of chronic conjunctivitis, very important symptom. So burning and grittiness in the eyes, especially in the evening, so as the day progresses. And there's mild redness, itching, and watering. So redness will not be that much as compared to the acute or the hyperacute type of bacterial conjunctivitis. So just a small amount or mild amount of redness will be present, and difficulty in keeping the eyes open. So because of all these features, the grittiness, burning sensation, the patient will have difficulty in keeping the eyes open. So because of strain and all that also, so ocular discomfort. So when you look at the patient, when you examine the patient, you can see mild amount of conjunctival hyperemia, unlike that of the acute or hyperacute bacterial conjunctivitis, along with scant mucoid discharge. Okay, so the discharge also won't be much. There'll be very little scant mucoid discharge. Okay, phusro khalko dry kisimko discharge, not like the wet discharge like in purulent or mucopurulent. Okay, so dry kisimko discharge huncha, and very little. And crusting of lashes or ulceration. Sometimes the lashes or pani crossed or ulceration or saksa, and papillary hypertrophy or presence of papillae in the this palpable conjunctiva. So in case of chronic, you'll have to remember it's more than 4 weeks, and main symptoms say burning sensation or grittiness, especially evening ma. Condition is very mild. There's scant mucoid discharge, or sometimes there can be ulceration at the lashes or crusting of the lashes. And main causative organism is Staph aureus and Moraxella. Okay, in such cases. So treatment, we have to treat the cause. Okay, so broad spectrum topical antibiotics, usually the fluoroquinolones ones, and sometimes blepharitis, which is inflammation of the lid. So that could also be one of the causative features. So in such cases, we advise for lid scrub. Okay, to scrub out the crust or the ulcers which are present, especially the crust which is present in the lashes. Okay, so mainly is because of acne or because of seborrhea. So if there's associated acne, that also has to be treated by oral antibiotic for a period of around 1 to 3 months. Okay, so in addition to the causative features which I talked about previously, okay, so blepharitis also is one of the factors which can cause chronic conjunctivitis. So you have to rule out all these causes. So foreign body sobani, remove that, treat for uncorrected refractive areas of phoreas, or there's presence of chronic dacrocystitis or rhinitis. All that has to be treated in addition to the symptoms of chronic conjunctivitis. Okay, so this is about the chronic conjunctivitis. Now coming to the viral conjunctivitis, so this is a very common conjunctivitis, so very common nowadays also, and some of y'all may have had some amount of conjunctivitis in your life till now. Okay, so viral conjunctivitis is an abrupt onset of red eye. So either it could be unilateral or bilateral, and usually the second eye gets involved within 7 to the 10 days after involvement of the first eye. And again, similar symptoms, mild discharge, redness, foreign body sensation, itching, and along with that, they can be low-grade fever and malaise. Okay, so features of viral infection. Okay, so viral conjunctivitis is either unilateral or bilateral, and it can be, the second eye can usually get involved in a period of 2nd or 10 days. Okay, so mild discharge, mild redness, not that much of congestion or hyperemia compared to the acute or the hyperacute bacterial conjunctivitis. Okay, so mainly low grade of congestion and discharge, and usually it is a serous type of watery or watery discharge, and other features of a viral infection like low grade fever and malaise will also be present. So you can see here, these are features of viral congestion where there's mild congestion, okay, not much of discharge, just some amount of watery discharge. So features, lydedema, conjunctival hyperemia. Sometimes they could also be presence of subconjunctival hemorrhage, which I talked about in my last class, mainly in case of adenoviral infection. So follicles, which can be seen in the palpable conjunctiva, mainly in the fornixes. So membranes can be present. Sometimes in case of viral conjunctivitis, the cornea can get involved. Like in this picture, you can see this, the cornea here. These are the presence of epithelial or subepithelial changes in the cornea, subepithelial type of infiltration. And usually symptomatic treatment is done. Okay, so symptomatic treatment is done, but usually we advise the patient for rest, okay, because the case of viral infection. But sometimes, however, antibiotic has to be given to prevent the secondary bacterial infection, okay. And if the cornea gets involved, then antiviral drugs in the form of ointment or cyclovir is also given. That is only when the cornea is involved. Okay, so it's usually self-limiting and symptomatic treatment is done. And however, to prevent the secondary infection, we go for broad spectrum antibiotics. Okay, so we've talked about the bacterial ones, acute, hyperacute, the chronic one, and then viral. Now the next important topic is vernal keratoconjunctivitis. Okay, so it's also known as VKC or vernal keratoconjunctivitis, or also known as a spring catarrh. But however, it's a misnomer. It doesn't only take place during the spring months. Okay, usually it takes place in the summer season, so spring and summer. So it's usually a recurrent bilateral and allergic inflammation of the conjunctiva. So it's recurrent, it's bilateral usually, and it's allergic, and it has a seasonal variation, and mainly seen in the dry and warm climates, and mainly in cases of young children and adults with male preponderance. So around 5 years till puberty can be seen, and it is a IgE mediated. Okay, so it's allergic. And main thing about VKC, you'll have to remember, is that it has a seasonal variation, mainly seen during the dry and warm climates, and especially seen in male children, in young children from around 5 years to puberty. Okay, so the main symptom or the clinical feature or the symptom with which the patient will come or the parents will bring the child is the intense itching. Okay, so as you notice, the child will be constantly itching. Okay, so that's the main important symptom in case of VKC. Okay, so there'll be intense itching there, foreign body sensation, irritation, and then other features like lacrimation, photophobia, and discharge. Discharge, it is ropey, dhago tanne jasto khalko discharge huncha. Okay, so not mucopurulent or purulent. So main feature is the intense itching. So there are three main types of clinical types of this VKC. One is the palpable type, where the feature is seen in the clinical signs are seen in the palpable conjunctiva. The other is the limbal type, where features are seen in the limbus. And the third one is a mixture of both. Okay, so coming to the palpable VKC, the main C is the conjunctival hyperemia. And along with that, the pathognomic feature in case of a palpable type of VKC is the presence of giant papillae. Okay, so there's diffuse papillary hypertrophy. So in the last class, we had talked about papillae, which were small dots, but here you can see it is a huge papillae. It is because of the hypertrophy there. Okay, so diffuse papillary hypertrophy and then enlargement of the papillae. So because of this, that has led to a giant papillae, and that has led to a formation of cobblestone appearance. Okay, so the giant papillae, they have stuck together or they have coalesced together to form a cobblestone appearance. Okay, so this is a typical feature or a pathognomic feature in case of palpebral VKC. So this is usually seen in the upper palpebral conjunctiva. So you have to evert the upper eyelid and look for these features of giant papillae and cobblestone appearance. Okay, so this is the palpebral VKC, the pathognomic feature in these cases. The next one is the limbal VKC. So in case of limbal or the bulbar VKC, what happens is the conjunctiva is muddy or dusky in color. So whenever the child is brought to the OPD, you can see from a distance only child एकदम intense itching भइरा हुन्छ, आँखा माडिरा हुन्छ, टाढोबाट हेर्दाखेरि नै त्यो आँखाको त्यो conjunctiva it will be dusky or dirty looking. Ekdam the normal conjunctiva hundaina, it will be muddy or dusky, dirty looking kind of conjunctiva. And then when you look at the limbus, especially in the superior limbus. So limbus is the meeting of the cornea and sclera. So at the superior limbus, so in order to see the superior limbus, what do you do is that you pull up the upper eyelid and ask the patient to look slightly down. So because of that, then you will see the discrete white spots at the limbus. So that is known as the Trantas dots or Trantas spot. Again, another pathognomic feature in case of limbal VKC. Okay, so discrete white spots or the Trantas dots which are seen at the limbus, mainly at the superior limbus. Okay, so the limbus is a 360-degree structure. So superior limbus ma chai tyo huncha. So palpebral ma chai giant papillary reaction bhara giant papillae huncha, that will lead to cobblestone appearance, whereas in case of limbal VKC ma chai dusky conjunctiva huncha, and then there will be presence of discrete white spots or known as Trantas dot at the limbus, especially at the superior limbus. And if it's mixed, you will have features of both palpebral as well as limbal type of VKC. Another important thing in case of VKC is that the cornea can get involved. Okay, so it is known as keratopathy. So either it could be a punctate epitheliopathy where just the epithelium or the subepithelium is involved, or sometimes they can be subepithelial scarring or frank ulcer. Like in this case, it's a case of ulcerative vernal keratitis. Okay, it's a ulcer or a lesion in the cornea. Okay, so the condition but mainly is the ulcerative type of vernal keratitis. Okay, so keratitis is nothing but corneal ulcer. Okay, so that's about the various types of VKCs. So the clinical type, mainly the palpebral type, the bulbar type, or the mixed type, and then you'll have to remember that there as a keratopathy is also present, could also be present. Now coming to the treatment, so main stay of treatment is sodium chromoglycate, which is a mast cell stabilizer. Okay, so it's a mast cell stabilizer. It comes in the percentage of 2%, and it is given around 4 to 5 times a day, almost around 4 times a day. And in severe cases, when there's intense itching and all, we also go for topical steroids, which comes in the form of fluoromethanolone. It's a weak steroid. It comes in 0.1%, and that is given in the form of 1 drop around 4 times daily. And sometimes topical antihistaminics also is given in case of severe cases, and oral antihistaminics and oral steroids are given in the severe cases. Okay, so that's about the local therapy. And general measures like avoiding of pollution, avoiding the dust and all that. So that's the general measures. You advise the patient to wear hat or cap while going out, protection for the eyes in the form of sunglasses, okay, and then cold compression. So all these should be advised, since it's a recurrent inflammation there, usually occurs in young children. So to avoid playing in the dust, okay, so all these are the general measures. Okay, so mainly you'll have to remember the types, the features, and then of course the treatment, which is the sodium chromoglycate, which is also a mast cell stabilizer. And sometimes when in case of severe cases where there's intense itching and intense papillary reaction and all that, then you go for topical steroids in the form of fluoromethanolone, which is a weak steroid. Okay, so use of this steroid will not cause that much of rise in the, or it will not cause rise in the intraocular pressure. Okay, because long-term use of topical steroids can cause increase in intraocular pressure. So we have to be very careful, especially in children. So these weak steroids or fluoromethanol is just given for a very short period, around 1 to 2 weeks, and then you taper it off. Okay, but sodium chromoglycate can be given for a long time, or around for 1 to 2 months, and then topical antihistaminics and oral antihistaminics and oral steroids again for a short period of time, and oral steroid of course has to be tapered as well. Okay, so and then the general measures of course of avoiding of the pollution, and especially in children, young children, you have to advise them to not play in the dust and in the mud and all that, so that's important. Okay, so that's about the VKC, its various types, its treatment and all that. So the last thing of today's topic is ophthalmia neonatum. Okay, so again, this is a very important conjunctivitis which mainly occurs in neonates, okay, in the first month of life, rather in the first 28 days of life. Okay, so it's also known as ophthalmia neonatum, or also known as neonatal conjunctivitis. So neonatal conjunctivitis, also known as ophthalmia neonatum, is a form of conjunctivitis which occurs during the first month of life. So in neonates, and main causative agents, so as we talked about in the previous one, so gonococcal infection, which will lead to the purulent type of conjunctivitis. Sometimes even chemicals, okay, chemical conjunctivitis due to various chemicals. Then other bacterial infections can also be can also cause like Staph aureus, Streptohemolyticus, or Streptopneumoniae. Okay, but however, the main causative agent is of course gonococcal infection. So the main causative, the etiological factor is before birth. It could be before birth due to the infected, like amni, which in case of ruptured membranes, or during birth also because of any infection in the birth canal of the mother. So that's most common. And after birth because of the infected lochia. Okay, so these could be the etiological factors which are responsible for causing ophthalmia neonatum. So symptoms and signs, the parents usually bring the small child with the pain and tenderness in the eyeball. There'll be swelling eyelid. Okay, so as you can see in this picture here, there'll be swelling eyelid. So huge swelling you can see in this picture, upper and lower eyelid, it is swollen. Okay, along with that, purulent discharge and crusting of the eyelashes. Okay, so because of lot of purulent discharge. Okay, so all have, it has stuck to the eyelashes there, so it's difficulty in opening, there'll be pain, child okay, so there'll be a lot of swelling here, and then there'll be lot of purulent discharge or crusting of the lashes. Okay, so mainly purulent and mucopurulent discharge, but mainly the purulent, so there'll be hyperemia, conjunctival chemosis also, and cornea, there'll be presence of superficial punctate keratitis. So as we know that in case of purulent conjunctivitis, it is rapidly progressive. So if it's not treated on time or not treated immediately, what will happen? The cornea will get involved in the form of peripheral keratitis, or sometimes even corneal thinning. But however, in case of children, it's more important that the treatment has to be started right away, because sometimes what happens is that the cornea can get involved. The whole of the cornea can get involved in the form of corneal ulcer, or sometimes since it progresses so rapidly that if treatment doesn't take place, okay, or doesn't take place in time, what happens is that corneal ulcer, or sometimes even perforation of the cornea can also take place. So you have to remember, since it's a rapidly progressive condition, treatment has to be done right away to prevent involvement of the cornea. Okay, late cases, or we've seen that sometimes it can lead to corneal ulcer, or sometimes even perforation of the cornea. Okay, so treatment, of course, antenatal measures, prophylactic, various prophylaxis measures, so which is usually done, antenatal measures like treatment of genital infections and delivery should be conducted on the hygienic measures, and postnatal measures usually after the birth of the child, povidone iodine is you clean the eyes with this povidone iodine 2.5 solution. Okay, usually eye of the newborn baby is cleaned, and sometimes even 1% tetracycline ointment can be used is as a prophylactic measure to prevent this ophthalmia neonatum. And the treatment is, of course, the broad spectrum antibiotic. So it has to be topical and frequent. So as frequent as 1 hourly at time. So in usually go for fluoroquinolones, but however, in severe cases, if it's, you see it's lot of swelling, lot of discharge, purulent discharge there, then you can also go for cefazolin eye drops. Okay, so jun त्यो IV solution पाउँछ त्यसलाई नै हामी मिक्स eye drops मा बनाएर चलाउँछौं. Okay, so that is a 45 cefazolin eye drops that comes in the dose of 50 mg per ml. So that's used in severe cases. So 1 drop in both the eyes as frequently as 2 hourly. So sometimes त्यति severe छैन, अलिअलि मात्र छ भने then you can even go for fluoroquinolones eye drops in the form of ofloxacin. Okay, so that is frequent installation important, and maintenance of ocular hygiene is very important. You have to teach the parents that not to wipe the eyes with anything. They use all this dirty cloth and all to wipe the eyes, so त्यसले गर्दाखेरि पनि infection हुन्छ. So just advise them to use lukewarm water and to dip pieces of cotton and then to wipe away the discharge and then dispose of the cotton. Okay, so that's important for the parents to be taught about the ocular hygiene or to maintain the eye hygiene. So ofloxacin drops, and then if the cornea is involved in the form of SPKs, various types of keratitis there, then atropine has to be given because that causes pain. So atropine will relieve the pain. So atropine 1% eye ointment usually used in small children. And systemic therapy is also very important in these neonates. So usually we go for ceftriaxone 75 to 100 mg per kg per day, IV or IM. Usually IM QID for around 3 to 4 days or at least 3 days. Okay, so systemic therapy also is important for cases of ophthalmia neonatum. Okay, so as in the previous slide where we talked about purulent conjunctivitis, where in severe cases systemic antibiotic is important. So in this case also in children or in neonates, in ophthalmia neonatum, ceftriaxone is given. Okay, so in case of ophthalmia neonates, you have to remember the conjunctivitis occurring in the first month of life. So there'll be severe discharge, purulent discharge, swelling or huncha. And main thing you have to remember is that it is rapidly progressing. So the cornea can get involved. So that has to be treated. And then the patient has to be treatment has to be started immediately in order to prevent the rapid thinning of the cornea, or sometimes even the presence of corneal ulcer, or sometimes even ulceration of the cornea can be there. So all these has to be taken into account as treatment has to be started right away. Okay, so antibiotics are its most important topical and usually the fortified ones which we use. And then cornea involved then atropine and systemic therapy is important. Okay, so this is about the various types of conjunctivitis.